Hello and welcome to the Dad Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Leahy. Last week, I talked a little bit about videos, but ultimately using the internet to learn the newest techniques or helping your kids learn things that they're learning at school or whatever. So this week, I'm going to dive a little bit more into that and just kind of give tips on doing some research to learn about parenting. Now, one of the reasons why I'm ending the podcast is I don't want to get new parents finding the show. I could keep throwing episodes up each week. It would help the show, maybe get some sponsorships. If it had good download numbers, I could probably push to get sponsorships. But for me, that wasn't what the show was about. The show was about me learning and doing research on parenting, kind of talking my way through it, which makes me do more research and learn it better. If I'm telling others, I kind of have to know the facts. Well, that worked out well for me. I learned a lot. Hopefully I got some feedback from others, so hopefully a lot of people got some stuff out of it. And now at the point where I think it's in a good place where others can use this. And the idea behind the show in the first place was to have short episodes that you could listen to a bunch at a time. Or if you're busy, listen to one and kind of pick and choose them. Pick and choose the ones you need, listen to them, and that's it. You don't have to listen to all of them in order. I mean, you could, but generally they should be enough to be standalone episodes. Hopefully, I know I tried some things throughout the middle because I knew that the show would have to end unless I started to tell more stories and or just bring in research news. But ultimately, I decided that's not what the show is about, and I think this show will stand hopefully the test of time. I know new research could debunk that. So I'm going to give you some tips on how I researched for the show and ways you can learn about parenting. When I started this, I had graduated from the University of Michigan with my master's in computer science. So I had access to their digital library. And Michigan has a pretty good hospital and doctor program. So they had a ton of new research, had deals with a lot of the new schools. So I prefer to read actual medical research. Some parents might not want to do that. Some people might not have access. So the reason I mentioned Michigan was they had an online library. I think it's open to people that live there. I don't live there. I'm a student. I had access. I'm an alum now, so I had access to go in with my login. A lot of people probably don't have that. So you will have to go to your local library and look. Most of them have like a digital library card. So I use my alum login to get access to journal articles. Some people you might have to pay, which I know that's a burden you probably might not want to do. But whatever school you went to, check and see if they have a program like that, a digital library that you can get. It was a virtual library card I got. I could check it out from any school. If I wanted to read something from Harvard Medical School, I could. So check with wherever you went to college if you went to college. If not, check at the public library where you live. See if they have a virtual library card where you can read the latest research. One thing I'll tell you not to do not listen to celebrities because they don't know. So by me getting research directly from medical schools and doctors, these are peer-reviewed articles. That means that other doctors have to read it, do the studies, and make sure that everything works. So by the time it gets published, there's pretty good research facts behind it. People that are on the news, I mean, there's a lot of you see it around, a lot of people throwing around the term fake news because a lot of the celebrities and stuff, they've been found to just make stuff up, create hysteria. So do your own research. Go online. The other thing to do is to use Google and only go for news articles. And yes, I know there might be some blogs. I'm a blog. Basically, that's what I am. So if you found the show and you were like, well, this guy, he doesn't do the research. Well, yes, I do. So Most of the stuff I had for the show, and I even sourced some of it because I got my developmental charts directly from the CDC, which is made by the United States government. Like, they recommended those. So I was doing my research the whole show. A lot of people, they might not. I don't know. So do your research. Make sure if you find a blog, ask them, where did you learn this? Can you show me the study? Because if they have a study, they'll know. Now, some of the stuff that I talked about, like with the strollers, I talked about like the weight, that was directly from their documentation. So some of the stuff, it depended on what I was talking about to give advice. Some of the stuff was just general, like pacifier stuff that I heard from the doctor. Now, like I said, if I was using that information, I would just tell you, check with your doctor. So go online. That's what I recommend first. Read the most up-to-date studies. These virtual library cards allow you to search by topic. So you can go ahead, type in breastfeeding, and you can find studies going all the way back to like the 1920s. What was one of the ones? I don't know if I talked about it on the show, but I wanted to see how damaging, this is just an example, if there was any research saying that letting your child cry themselves to sleep was damaging. And I couldn't. I found medical studies going back to the 1800s where they recommended it. They were very harsh in their terms, where they were like, if your child's not sleeping through the night, put them under the stairwell so you don't hear them cry, and let them sleep in there until they learn that they need to sleep through the night. And so one of the things that we did was I told my wife, like, you can't have the baby monitor on. I literally took it from her and put it in my pocket and turned it off and let our daughter cry. So some of the more recent studies said to do that for like 10, 15 minutes. I'm good off the top of my head because we haven't had to do with this for a while. So that's why I'm saying do your research. This is just an example of how I've used medical research to help our daughter. So I wanted her to sleep through the night. They recommended that let them cry. If they start to cry, don't run up and give them milk, because they'll use that as a tool to cry, knowing that you're going to bring them milk. There are other schools of thought. Read the conflicting articles. I've read both sides of it. Some said never let them cry themselves to sleep. It's better to have them sleep on you. But I didn't want to hold my daughter to sleep. So we let her cry it out. And it worked. After I took the monitor, I think what we did, most of the research in favor of letting them cry it out said that if they're still crying after 10 or 15 minutes, then you need to go soothe them. So I would go up, rub her in the back, and I would talk to her and tell her, hey, it's bedtime. Calm down. I definitely didn't give her any more milk. Definitely didn't pick her up. Definitely didn't turn on the light. Definitely didn't try to read to her or anything else. I would just reassure her, it's bedtime. I'm trying to sleep, honey. You need to go to sleep. And eventually it worked. I think she cried maybe a week. I don't think it was that long. Maybe 4 days, 3 or 4 days. And then after that, she started to sleep. And in the middle of the night when she would wake up, we would do the same thing. Now that was the worst part. Because when you're half asleep, the one thing you don't want to do is lay there for 10 minutes, hoping that she stops. Because then the longer you're up, the harder it is for you to fall back asleep. But eventually it worked, and then she stopped crying throughout the night, and now she doesn't either. She still doesn't. She sits in her crib and distracts herself if she wakes up. So that's an example of how I used medical research to kind of come up with, it wasn't my own idea. We talked to our doctor about it. He said, do what makes you feel comfortable. So it wasn't like I just read research and did it. He said that you could do it. I think he did it with his kids or something like that. But do your research. Check it out. Read the second thing. Read the information the doctor gives you. They give you a lot of developmental charts. I read some of it on the show. Not word for word, but I had parts of what our doctor was giving us with the growth charts, and I was using it in the developmental chart episodes. So do your own research. But number one, try to use those. I think those are the most credible sources because multiple people have to peer review. The second source would be to read from maybe parenting magazines, other things where there's editors that are going to be fact checking and then try to mix in some blogs. Blogs will give you some new ideas. But like I said, with the blog, take their new ideas, and those are what you want to research. So if some parent's telling you to only feed your kid oranges, that's probably not going to be good advice. I mean, yeah, they might be high in vitamin C, so go ahead and search that in the public library. Is anyone else doing that? Or is just this some theory that they're using with their kid when everyone else is telling you to have your kid eat a balanced diet? And that's my recommendation. Use the most up-to-date, research-based news to learn about parenting. You can talk to others too. Talk to others, talk to your doctor. See what happens, get some experience. Because a lot of times, even talk to your family members. Even though your mother or your dad raised you years ago, they might have some good advice, especially when it comes to child behaviors and positive reinforcement. There's a ton of research on that. So go ahead, get your chops wet. I'm sure there are some medical podcasts by doctors out there that you can also research. See who's writing the books. Buy a book. We had a reference book. I think we actually had one sent to us. It's from the Mayo Clinic for free. And that's a bunch of doctors getting together writing a book. Who knows, maybe they have a podcast. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. But use that to go ahead. I'm not going to plug someone else's podcast. But I'm saying once you get that, you need to get as many sources as possible. Don't just rely on one. Do the research and have your kid grow up healthy and smart and athletic and everything. Make them well-rounded. So that's it for this episode. And next week will be the last episode of the Dad Strength podcast. I hope you enjoyed your time with me. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, and I'll see you next week to say farewell.